well, like sort of a more detailed version that you can refer to later on of everything that I'm going to go through today. Oh yeah, sorry, I should probably start from the beginning. I completely forgot about the recording.
Sorry, I just started it.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, so I probably you're going to have available to you the file later, but essentially in the folder there's two things. First is the cheat sheet PDF. Inside, I've sort of condensed, I guess, all the knowledge that we have sort of scattered around all over the place. I think in like tutorials and like other places, and put them in one place, sort of. And so it's basically it's a place where you can refer back to after sort of I'm done with the workshop, where you can sort of get more information about the individual steps I went through. And the second thing that's in the folder is the example project. And in there, I'm sort of just going to be working through that and sort of showing you how I might just get the basic structure of a project done. So in the okay, I might just share my screen actually. Okay, so yeah, so this is the example project, and basically inside, I've written something for the first page only, and the second and third page are just straight from the template that I'm going to show you later. So if you don't have time right now, you can play with the second and third page to sort of do the things that I talk about right now. Okay, I think I'm going to start from beginning. So okay, so this is the first section. I'm just going to talk about how you might install sort of Node and all of that. And what I will do is I will actually go, I guess, from the beginning. I'll basically do it as if I haven't installed Node. Well, partly, but essentially, so these first few steps you can do on your own. And that is to first check if Node is installed. So for example, depending on if your Windows on a Mac, you'll use what's called terminal. So you would search up terminal in your Spotlight and open that up. On Windows, I think there's something called a command prompt, and I think you open it. I'm not too sure if someone but I think you can probably search it up. I don't know if someone who uses a Windows can sort of say how to get the command prompt up.
You can also search for terminal; it'll still come up with the command prompt. So either way.
Okay. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah. So either way, get a command prompt open, and then first thing you might want to do is to check if Node installed. So right now running these two commands. Can you see my terminal okay, or do I need to make it bigger?
It's fine.
Okay. And please stop me at any time if you have any questions. But yeah, so check if Node installed. If not, follow the link. It's a pretty simple install. And then the second thing you want to do is to install the Imperial Visualizations command line thing. And what this does is it basically allows you to quickly create a new project with all the sort of boilerplate code that you would need to get straight into coding. So it sets up sort of all the so for example, when you first create an example project, this is sort of all the files you get. Like it will basically set up the package.json files, so you have all these sort of functions already written for you that you don't need to worry about. And so what you would do to install this sort of command line is basically type this command into your terminal. So I would copy and paste this in, press enter. Since I already have it installed, it shouldn't actually do anything, I think. It should probably just see if any updates need doing, and then it'll do that. So yeah, update one package. And so after that, after you've installed it, I would change my folder to where I want to install it. So I just change it to my desktop. And let's say I want to create a new project. What I would do is I would run this command. And it's quite simple. Just do ImpVis create and whatever project name. So let's say it's workshop 1. And so it'll be doing something in the background. And what you can do is now you can select which option you want. And I would suggest you go as a standard project if you don't have any special requirements. And depending on sort of what kind of visualization you're doing. So for example, if you're doing 3D stuff, you want to press space on a 3.js to select it. Math.js is sometimes also helpful, and D3 is also helpful. And then after that, you press enter to actually install it, to actually create the example project. I'm not going to do it right now because it does take a few seconds, and I think we can probably move on from there. So yeah, that's all the creating and installation phase. And then finally, the thing. So now you've created your example project, and let's say the project that I just created is on your desktop. It's going to be, let's say you just created this tutorial project. How do you actually run it? Well, the first thing you want to do is check if you have VS Code installed. If you don't, just go onto this website and and download it. And afterwards, once you have VS Code installed, you can open a new window. Open the folder that you just created, that the template just created, and you should see the screen. And you want to wait for everything to sort of just load up, wait for like sort of these things to populate, and after a while, once sort of it's done activating extensions and stuff, you're going to see this sort of npm scripts tab window thing. And to actually see your code in action, you want to press the hover over the serve part, and then press the green arrow. Press the play arrow. And so it's going to start development server on your machine, which you can then open up with Chrome or whatever web browser you have that you like to use. So yeah, those are the basic steps. I'm just going to wait for this to start up, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And I guess that's sort of the installation step. And I think afterwards I'll probably sort of maybe stop the recording and then start it again, start a new recording, because then I'll sort of go talk through in depth about the different sections of this example project and what they all mean. Yeah, so now it's done sort of compiling and setting up this development server. What you can do is you can select one of these links. It doesn't really matter. I think I just copied, and then maybe you can open up a Chrome tab, paste it in, and go to it. And you should see something like this. This is like the example project, and for example, I can navigate to the second page, and I'm just gonna. This is what the template looks like in its sort of most basic form, and the rest of this workshop is talking through how you might add stuff to it to get to sort of this stage. So at the end of this workshop, I'm sort of going to get to a stage where you're able to sort of add a plane to the left-hand side, add a small visualization in the middle, and add a slider where you can sort of drag around and interact with. And that should be sort of all the basic things that you need to really get started with this template. So yeah, cool. Does anyone have any questions? So far, I can't. Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So I guess I'll just sort of continue on with the tutorial then. So let me just sort of clean up my desktop. I always have so many different folders open. It's hard to keep track of. And cool. Okay. Okay, so yeah, if any of those steps didn't make sense, either refer to a cheat sheet or send any of the mentors a message. But yeah, okay. Next step, basics. So I'm basically going to regurgitate basically what I wrote down here. But I think it is sometimes helpful to sort of hear someone explain like what it is that all of these files mean, because I think when you first get started with Vue, you're sort of inundated with all of these files that you don't really know what they do or what the point of them is. And I think when you I think the most important thing about sort of understanding Vue is that it sort of builds on top of HTML plus JS, but it gives you it gives you these tools to help you sort of organize and create different components that you can then that you can then put in packages and share and use them sort of composably. So for example, in sort of usual HTML, you wouldn't be able to simply sort of say, oh, I'm going to create a component, I'm going to give it to someone else, and that person can use the component. It's sort of a lot more difficult, but with Vue, you can do that. However, I guess the main issue with Vue is that there's a pretty steep learning curve, as there's sometimes the syntax might look kind of weird, but we're going to talk about that later. And so the first thing I really want to talk about is what do all these files mean? And so I'm just going to go through this list one by one. And the first one is these .vue files. So I don't know if you can see clearly, but this is a screenshot from sort of the file explorer on VS Code. And this is the basic outline of all the files that you get when you first create a template. And in this case, I chose a multi-page template, and I created 3 different pages, the first, second, and third page. And these .vue files are essentially the equivalent of your .html files before you started using Vue. And what's extra now is that you have a main.js file, which is the file that sort of reads these Vue files and actually creates the sort of I guess code that you would send to the browser to display. And so these .vue files and .js files work in tandem to essentially replace the HTML plus JS file plus the JavaScript files that you had before. But for the purposes of this tutorial, the only thing you basically have to work on is these .vue files. I'll show them to you later. And these other files, I'm just going to mention briefly. These a .ignore file, if you haven't seen it before, basically tells Git, which is a version tracking system that you might use in the future, it tells Git which files not to save in the repository. Package.json file is basically a snapshot of all the node modules you have installed. You're not going to be using this file directly, but sometimes it's helpful to you to use this file to sort of share what exact node modules you have installed on your system to give to someone else for them to install on their system. The package.json is a file you do edit. It's basically a file that contains all the sort of metadata about your project. So what its name is. So I'm just going to open it up here. So for example, it'll give you the name, the version. It'll give you some scripts. And these are actually the equivalent scripts of sort of what we had here. So when I actually click the serve button, what it does is actually directly runs the serve command for you. And so these scripts are included with a template because these scripts are sort of the same for every project, and it basically builds the Vue project for you. And I think the final important thing about this package.json is that it includes these dependencies, and these dependencies are sort of are the modules that the project requires to run. So for example, you have the Vue package, and you also have the impure visualization components package included in this package.json file. So if you ever want to add new packages, this is where you would add them. And finally, something you might run into is that this is Vue.config.js file. This is just how the template works, but essentially it defines the structure of your visualization. So how many pages there are, and what the names of those pages are, and what the first file that it should run is when it wants to display that page. So for example, I mean, to be honest, it's not too important right now. We're just sort of only going through the basics. Okay. Okay. Next big thing is basic overview of what a Vue file is. So it's a Vue. So when I create a .vue file, and I'm just gonna give up. So this is what you will see when you create the template and you open up one of these Vue files. There's sort of three main sections to a Vue file. There's the template section, there's the script section, and there's the style section. If you want, you can open up the example project that I gave you and sort of try to identify these three sections on your own time. I think it's quite instructive to sort of see like an order to this Vue file. But essentially, you can think of the template section as your HTML file, the script section as your JS file. This is where you sort of add interactive components to your project, and the style section is where you put the CSS. So where you put styling, for example, here you have the welcome message class, and the style is being applied to this element, this tag. So okay, so what do you do in each of these three sections? So for the template section, this is where you start using the impure visualization components list, and you'll see that all the impure visualization components are prefixed with the IV dash something something. So for example, here's like an IV visualization. More complex, there's like IV toggle hotspot, there's sidebar, IV pane. So whenever you see IV dash something, it's going to be something that's included in the impure visualization components library. But yeah, so the template is where you sort of write your HTML file. Where you lay out where all the components on your visualization are. And I think that should be pretty straightforward if you've ever used HTML in the past. It's basically adding different tags in them, changing the attributes of each of these tags, and sort of putting them out in a logical order. However, what may be sort of very confusing at first is the script tag and what sort of goes into it. And I think one of the key things that, especially if you haven't done JavaScript before, one of the key ideas that you sort of need is to understand the idea of an object. And in JavaScript, basically everything is the object. But essentially how you would write an object is with these curly braces. And in an object, it can be thought of as a dictionary. And a dictionary is, if you think of like a real dictionary, it's a list of words with definitions. It's a list of keys with the value attached to them, where the key is the word itself and the value is the definition of that key of the word. And so, for example, here you can see that you have keys Tom, Kathy, and Jamie with the values of 4, 10, and 12. And in JavaScript, these keys usually are strings, but these values can be anything. So they can be numbers, they can be functions, they can be strings, and why objects are so key to this is that when you start searching up sort of when you go beyond sort of the basic tutorials and start looking at the documentation, they'll sometimes tell you, oh, so for example, they might talk to you about the components key that you need to pass to Vue. And what they mean actually is that you need to give the thing an object with a key that has the name components. And inside the components, you would give it more information essentially. But I'll show you an example later on of what this actually looks like in code. But just to give you an overview of what the script, what the essential components of the script, what you need to put in the script within the script tags is first you need to import everything that you need. So whether that be sort of this config file that you have, or it could be another component that you need, or it could be a library such as Vue.js. You first import it, and second, you have this sort of construct where you export default. And export, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. You're exporting something. You're saying that when something reads this file, you want to give back the person reading this file this thing I'm going to write underneath it. And default is just a way of just saying always give this thing back. And can you sort of see how this sort of these curly brackets again? What you're actually giving back is another object, and this object has keys name and data. And data, you can see it's sort of different than how you would usually write it, in that there's sort of these open and close brackets and another curly bracket. This is how you would write a sort of a function within an object. And this is now data is the key, but data contains a function that does something, basically. And so you can see here that I've only defined the name and data keys. However, in Vue, there's actually a bunch of other things that you might come across. I'm just going to give a brief overview. You really don't have to understand them for now, but you sort of slowly build up knowledge about what these individual things work when you actually have to use them. So, for example, there's the name, which is just the name of the component that you're writing. So in this case, it might just be the second page. There's the components. So these are actually I don't know if you encountered them now, but if you have other components that you create in another Vue file and you want to import them, this is where you tell Vue, oh, these are the components that I created myself that I want to be available to use in the template. And so this is where you might put them. But to actually see how you would actually do this, I would suggest you look at one of the past projects, such as the lattice vibrations on the GitHub. You can also have a data key, which is a list of variables that you have that can be changed dynamically within your code. There's the method section, which is a bunch of functions that you can call within your code that does something to the page. And mounted, which is a code that's always run whenever this component is when the component is first mounted. And this is sort of most important for people who are moving from an HTML plus JS project, because this is where you would put the code that sort of sets up the visualization. And finally, there's something called props. It's not too useful right now, but just to give you a hint of what a prop is. If you know what a function is something that accepts a list of parameters. And analogous to that, a Vue file or component is sort of like a function, but accepts props. So props are sort of like the parameters for a function. And in case of components, these are it's basically a jargon word for parameters for these components. But yeah, and finally, there's sort of a style tag I mentioned before. It's just where you put the CSS code to style your different components within your template. But yeah, that's what concludes this super quick super hand-wavy description of everything to do with Vue. I think the main takeaways that I want you to get from here is the idea that there are many different files that you see in the file system right now, but the most important ones is for you right now is these .vue files, because these are the things that you're going to be editing to create your visualization. So that's one important takeaway. And the second important takeaway is to sort of start to see order to so what might be originally quite messy Vue file. So there's 3 sections. There's the template, there's a script, and there's a style. And each of these different sections have their own special purpose. And you put and you change each of these different sections to gain the sort of behavior that you want. But yeah, so that's sort of a brief overview. And so does anyone have any I guess more broad questions? Because I think in terms of specifics, might be better if we save them till later once we actually get the examples going. In the meantime, I'm just going to set up the sort of final live coding section of this workshop kind of thing. Yeah, okay. Okay, so this last section might be kind of all over the place because I'm basically going to try to live code something, and as you probably know, that never really. There's always lots of things that can go wrong. But essentially, what I did like to prepare for this was I created an example project of all the different things that sort of I feel most important to know how to do, and to give you an example of how you might do it to create a visualization, and that is one, the plane that can go back and forth, and the hotspot, and sort of how to include a visualization to that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to replicate this using this template by modifying this template. I'm just going to talk you through sort of what I wrote down in this second section, just generally. I won't go into detail, but this is I sort of condensed all the different components that you would need to build this example that I just showed you, and how you would lay them out. So on the sort of root thing, you have this ImpVis visualization tag that includes everything that you're gonna sort of write that you have on screen right now, and within that you have this hotspots thing that includes all the hotspots that you want to include. You have this pane thing that includes sort of the side pane that you can put your information in, and then you have this last div that where you include the main visualization. So this is although lots of the words I just said probably won't make sense right now, but when you do start doing this sort of will give you a visual representation of how things should be nested within each other. And below I include a brief description of what each of these HTML tags mean, and the attributes that you can change for them to get the desired sort of behavior from them. And if some of them have a theme attribute, and these are the various themes that you can have, and some of them have icon attributes where you can find them here. Yeah, okay. So yeah, let me just show you how to actually use them. So first thing first, this is what you'll see when you first start up the template. And so yeah, it already has the ImpVis visualization set up for you. But so let me go by this step by step. So I'm just gonna, I think how I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna sort of show you a component, and then I'm gonna show you how to add that component in. So first, let's try to add this pane in. How do we get this pane into this page? And so I'm just gonna go to my sort of cheat sheet, and so this is what I would do. I first need IB pane, and so let me just type that in. So I put this in front. I would go IB pane, and then I would close the IB pane. Okay, and so I have the IB pane. What would I put inside of it? IB sidebar content. sidebar content and IV sidebar content. And finally, IV sidebar section. I'm just going to copy and paste because that's simpler. And then close the tab. And then finally, let me put a paragraph tab tag in here. Oh yeah, and when I use the word tag, I'm just referring to these are what called HTML tags, and the tag name is the first word inside, and after that, these are going to be attributes. So this is sort of a jargony word that you might hear being thrown around. So I might just write hello. And some of the things, some of the sort of attributes that you might need to give them is, for example, with IV plain, you might need to give it a position or format. So I think they all have defaults, but sometimes it's just easier to specify them. So for example, I can say, oh, I want the position to be on the left-hand side. Okay, and I want the format to be, you can try each of these ones to see which one you like, but I think right now let me just go with push. Default one. And for the content, I don't think there's anything that I can change. And for the section, let me just give it a title first. So let's say I want to do bounce as a title. Okay, I'm just going to save that. I'm going to reload this page. Sometimes if it doesn't reload correctly in Chrome, you can do I think on a Mac at least is Command-Shift-R to force reload the page. But as you can sort of see on your page right now, well, on my screen right now, is that I just created a new sidebar, and it has a title bounce, and it has the contents hello. And what else can I do? Well, I can add an equation in there, so I can take the equation, I can create a new tag. This time when I write the sort of closing backslash in here, it means that I don't need to write the closing tag as well. It's just a shorthand. If you're interested. So stylize is not mandatory to use, but what I can do is stylize equals let's say true, and so I sort of explained that if I say stylize is true, it puts a box around the equation. Essentially, and let's do the equation. What's a fun equation? Equals MC squared. Why not? So I'm just going to save that. Reload it. So you can see I just put equation in there. Oh yeah, and one thing about VS Code is VS Code doesn't automatically save. So if you see like a white dot here, just press Command S or Control S if you're on Windows to save it and get the changes saved. Okay, so yeah, I think that sort of sums up how I might add this sidebar in here. And the second thing I want to add is probably the main visualization. So how do I actually get this main visualization in here? And one of the things, so how I would do that is I go back to sort of this I think helpful structure that I wrote out, and I put in this div tag, and that's nested within the IV visualization thing. And so I can sort of just repurpose this IV this welcome message that I already have. And so let me just delete all this. Not very useful. I don't need the classes either. And so if I just reload this, okay, I think the reason why it's glitching out is I found that you probably need this style tag on it. So this is going to be included in the example project. So if you do forget it, I'm just going to put display block. I think this fixes the disappearing text thing. Or not. Okay, I'm trying to figure out why the text is disappearing. Can't exactly figure out why. Is it because I'm missing something? I really can't figure out why it's disappearing. Maybe if I remove the paragraph tag. Yeah, so it's appearing, but it's just disappearing. So I'm usually when something like this happens, I open up the console by right-clicking and inspect. I think it might be different for different browsers. Okay, add component undefined. So Ivy. So something's wrong with Ivy pane. Ivy section. No, I don't think anything's wrong with that. I can't tell exactly what's wrong with this right now, but I'll try to figure out later, because I don't think it's that useful for me to try to debug this right now. But it's essentially to add a visualization. So usually you would have either a canvas element or something else, and you would basically put it in the div like this, and so I think it's gonna disappear again. But so I'm gonna try to figure out later, see why it's not working right now. Why the hello is disappearing for some reason. And I'll get back to you. But essentially you would put your visualization, like whatever tag is represents where you want the visualization to be within this div. Okay, and now the final thing that we need to replicate is this hotspot thing. How do we add this hotspot thing? And so I'm just going to go back to here, and first thing you need is this template hash hotspot tag, and I also need to close the tag. Close the tag always. So so later on, when you get more advanced, and you might start to wonder, oh, what does this template hash hotspots actually do? Well, this template, I think it's a little bit misleading, but it's essentially like one of these tags that when you use doesn't add an extraneous tag, if that makes sense. So it's sort of like a placeholder that it's sort of like a logical unit of thing that you might use. So that probably doesn't explain it very well, but essentially this is this anything that you put in here puts it within the slot named hotspots. So you might come across the word slots in the future, and this is what this means. But anyways, it's not too important right now. And so, okay, I want a toggle hotspot, so let me just put the toggle hotspot in, and let me close that tag, and maybe I want to put a slider in. So for the slider, there's lots of options. So I'm just going to copy it from the example that I already created. Okay, so I'm just going to reload this. Okay, maybe it's the fact that I do need a slider for it to display. I think there's probably something I'm missing. I'm going to get back to you on why now it's displaying. But yeah, so we just add a new slider, slides around. So okay, so now we created the. So now usually the first thing you want to do is sort of lay out your page. You put all the elements on there, and then you worry about connecting everything. Okay, so now I put everything on there. Where do I actually put the code to make things run, make things bounce, for example? So how do I get this bouncing ball to move around? How do I get this to sort of connect to each other? And so first things first, let's try to get the bouncing ball working. And so let me see if I have the original. Well, I think I may have lost it actually. No, that's what happened. Okay, so I'm just so in the background, I created this ball bouncing demo, and it just uses HTML plus plus a little bit of JavaScript. It's super basic, but okay. So I have this. How do I actually include it into this Vue Vue project? And so I already put the canvas element into, and the same as here. But now I have to put the JS code in. So I can most of the time I can just copy it, and can create a new function named mounted. So if you remember from the explanation above, one of the keys that you can put is mounted, and usually this is a set of code that runs on the page when it first starts. And this is sort of equivalent to what essentially what this JS code is doing. It's running whenever the page first starts. And so I want it to run when the page first starts. So I just copy and paste it in. I can fix the indentation a little. And I know I think this is just a syntax error, but I forgot to put lets in front of everything. Because in Python you usually don't use lets, so that's why I get it all the time. So I'm just fixing these syntax mistakes. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, maybe I just indent this a little. Okay, and so this should be okay. And I'll just change the ID to match the ID of the canvas that I want to change. So I say, oh, let the canvas that I want to change to be the ball canvas, and I think it should work now. So if I just run this second demo, you can see there's a ball bouncing. It's a little bit off center, but we can fix that later. But you can see it's usually is quite simple. So you put everything in the mounted thing, and it should just work like that. Even I think the reason it glitched out is there's some bugs to this code, to this animation loop that we can fix later. But so yeah. So yeah, I just added some interaction to the page. And now how do I actually get it to change when the slider has changed? Well, there's so this is where sort of, so I'm just going to show you one. There's two ways to do it, and one is sort of a hacky way. And the reason there's a hacky way because I think right now one of the limitations of this is that the sort of more correct way to do it right now, it only updates when you let go of the slider, which sometimes is not what you want. So I'm going to show you two ways to do it. So the first way is that when you have this @slider changed thing, what it's actually doing is that it's saying, oh, whenever the slider has changed, call the function called change. And where are these functions going to be located? Well, if I just go back to my explanation of the different parts, it's going to be in the script and it's going to be in the methods key. So methods is a collection of methods and functions that you can call in your code. And so whenever I tell it, oh, call the change method, well, I'm going to put it in the methods key. And how do I do that? Well, let me just put it here, actually, I think. So I can do methods and not that, and I create an object. Okay, so I'm saying, oh, so in the methods key, I want an object with one of the things in this new object to be changed. I'm going to say, oh, this is going to be a function, and this function is going to accept a new val. I'm going to say that whenever this new function, whenever this is called, so whenever the slider is changed. Sorry, I just realized that it should be changed, not changed. Whenever the slider is changed, it's going to call this function with a new variable. And what I want to do is I want to store this into a value called, let's say, x. I want to store this value called x. And so what is this x going to be? Well, if I go back to this tutorial thing again. Well, it's going to be in my data. I'm gonna in my data key, I'm going to define all the variable names that I want to use in my Vue file. And so okay, so data is returning an object with page name and this Vue config object thing. And so okay, I might just add a new sort of a new key to this data thing and say x. Let's say the initial value I want to be 0. Okay, so right now I add a new variable to this new thing, and I say, oh, whenever the slider changes, change the x value in my data object to this new value. Okay. And so how do I actually get this? How do I actually get this new x value then? So this is sort of the more tricky part, because one of the things about JavaScript is that there's this thing called this, and this I think it's one of the most confusing things about JavaScript. It's what this means, and usually. And in this case, in the case of Vue, this is actually bound to the object, to this entire sort of object, if that makes sense. And Vue does this sort of magic thing in the background where whenever you're referring to this within a function inside, it actually has all the different keys that you would need to do like special operations within this. I mean, that probably just makes no sense to any of you. But I think the important part is that because of how I've written it here, I have to do let this equal this. And why I do this is that what actually happens when I create a new when I have a function in here called render, what this refers to is actually different from what this refers to up here. It's really confusing, but essentially when I call this, it actually refers to the object, to the object that's created when you run the function renderer. So this is so I think the main takeaway here is that you have to do this. You don't have to understand why you need to do this, but just do this when you want to try to get the variable. And so I can show you how I can use this. So I can say console.log. So I just want to print out this x value for now. So this.x. Okay. So this variable contains all the different data points. So I can also say print this dot. Let's say I want to print a page name as well. I think that may be kind of useful. So okay, I have this code. I save it. I run it again, and then I look at my console, inspect, console. So it's going to be printing out. So the first thing it prints out is the value of the slider right now, and second it prints out the page name. Okay, this is what we expect. Okay, so what happens if I change the slider? Right. Okay, so I'm seeing different values being printed out. Okay, so now I know. Okay, I'm getting the value of the slider using this piece of code. It seems kind of voodoo right now, but I think just I think once you get more used to like the sort of deep aspects of JavaScript, or you start to understand why you need to do this. But for now, just know that you need to do this, and this is how you get the value of x. Okay, so now I know I can get the new value of x. So what can I do with it? Well, let me just take out the console.log. And well, okay, what if I want to change the x value of this ball that I have? So I can just do this.x. Okay, so I save it and I reload. Wait for everything to load up. And okay, so now I can change the x value of the ball. I don't know if you can see very clearly. Okay, if you can see, so the problem is now I'm dragging, nothing's happening. But if I let go, if I drag and I let go, you see it changes. So that's one of the limitations I'm talking about, is that when you use this add slider change thing, it only changes value when you let go, which I think is sort of a problem. So I looked at it, and there's sort of a hacky solution. I honestly wouldn't recommend it, but but for now, I think just I'll tell you what the hacky solution is. So the hacky solution is to first put a ref slider thing to this essentially creates a new reference to the slider that you can use in your code, and with that reference you can change .this, and the way to access that is this dot refs, I think, dot slider. So I'm saying this dot refs, this special $refs is a dictionary that contains all the references that you defined within your template. And if I do dot slider, that's the slider I want, and I want to reference its value. So if I save that and reload, I think it should work. So now if I drag it around, you can see that the ball is okay. So there's something wrong with the physics that I need to fix later, but you can see that the ball moves with the slider, and that's what I'm trying to get at. So right now, this is the sort of hacky way to do it. But yeah, so yeah, this is how you would I think that sort of ends. So if you sort of do all of that and polish it a little bit, what you find is that this is sort of the final demo that you have, where you have sort of a slider that changes the X position of the ball as it's falling. You have a section with some equations and stuff, and you have a hotspot where you can open and close. So okay, now we've done all of that. I'm just going to go through the rest of my document to see if there's anything that I've missed. Okay, so yeah, you can read through the useful tips later. If you don't really understand what they mean, just message me or someone. But yeah, so yeah, that's what ends my workshop. I hope everything kind of makes sense. But if it doesn't, I would highly suggest you to read through this document, so skim through it and look at the example project that I gave you, because it does have the finished project working that you can open up and look on your computer. And at the very end of the cheat sheet, I gave some suggested sort of exercises that you can try to do to really see if you understood this workshop. So try to do these tasks. If you want to, that is, or you can go straight into trying to move your simulation to the Vue template. But other than that, I think I'll stop sharing screen and maybe end the recording. And then, or does anyone have any questions? Okay, maybe I'll stop sharing screen and I'll look at the questions. So do we need, because our slide is. Yeah, so it's because of how a slider component is coded up right now. I haven't looked at specifically what can be changed, but I don't think it should be a difficult fix. I think let's put it that way. But yeah, yeah. Anyone have any questions or comments or whatever? Cool, awesome. I'm just going to stop recording right now, I think.